This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Ironmonger Brewing. Visit Ironmonger at their tap room in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. This is episode 206 of the show. This is our 12 Beers of Christmas episode. Brian, what do you think about that?
I've been looking forward to it. I'm
It's
happy.
a fun one.
Excited.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
That's right. The most wonderful time for a beer.
That's right. I am Tim Dennis, and with me as always is my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. Joining us to help us drink these Christmas beers, we have Brij Patel from Marietta's Sprayberry Bottle Shop. We're going to talk about and drink, you guessed it, a bunch of Christmas beers. Brij, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
Are you ready for the challenge of
Yes.
drinking these 12 Christmas beers?
Never been more excited.
You're a professional, right?
Like a kid that wakes up on Christmas morning
That's
waiting
it.
for gifts.
Opening the gifts, exactly. We don't have a tree, but they're all nicely wrapped for us, so we're going to have a good time with it.
It's nearly as intense as the Transmigration Challenge.
The Transmigration Challenge,
Yeah.
which is even harder. No, it's easier
It's
now,
easier
right?
now,
It went the
yes.
other way.
Yeah.
So Transmigration of Soul is a popular double IPA?
Yes.
IPA? Double IPA here in Georgia. Used to be 10% ABV, and the Transmigration Challenge was to drink a sixer, just one after the other.
That's right.
You've actually completed that
I
challenge,
have done
haven't
it.
you?
How many times?
Just the one time. I heard that they were changing the recipe and going back down to 8% to make it easier to drink more of. And I said, no, now is the time. If I'm going to do this challenge and beat it, I need to do it now. And
Now
I did it
is
then.
the time to do it.
Yeah.
And I had
succeeded.
a friend, I still do have a friend that can do it on a daily basis.
Ooh. Wow.
I don't know. We actually may have some people and websites and stuff we want to refer him to if he's doing that.
We got some
So,
people we want to put him in touch with.
yes, this is an intervention. Absolutely. Well, Brian, you had an eventful week. I did not this week, but why don't you tell us about some of the fun stuff you got into?
So the big time I had was the Strong Beer Festival at Wrecking Bar, and I drank everything I could. I talked to a lot of people, met with a lot of people, and I interspersed as many drinks as I could in there. It was a very busy time.
What were the standouts for you at Strong Beer Festival? And I think these were beers all over 8%, I think is what they qualify as strong.
I think so. I believe. I don't think I saw anything. I definitely didn't have anything under 8%. The most interesting thing I had there, you know what, having said that, I'm not sure about that raw ale that I had from Sabbath Brewing that's going to be opening up here. I don't think I've ever had a raw ale before, and it stood out to me just because it's new and exciting, and I've read about it, and it's a very interesting beer. I actually don't know what the ABV was, but it kind of tasted like beer plus something, and I couldn't put my finger on
Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right.
Pretty neat. Creature Comforts, the tree that owns itself. The barley wine was also very tasty. It was just a ton of stuff. I know that Reformation had their Pecan Doppelbock, which was quite good, and I believe was one of the winners.
It
at
was
that
one of the
thing.
winners.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that one.
Yeah,
That sounded
quite
good.
tasty. And, I had an Icebock, an 18% Icebock from Wrecking Bar, their Hothlanta.
How many percent?
18%.
14-ish.
14-ish. Yeah, on the thing, it said 18%, and also a quad mead, a quad style from Monk's Mead that was 18.5%. So I had those. So it was a very exciting time.
Quite a
Tim.
boozy
Yes.
day. Did you keep the tradition going, Brian, of going to the bar and drinking the finest bourbons?
No, I did not. I really should have. I never even made it in there. I never got that close to it.
Because I think the
yeah.
last 2 or 3 years we've done that. Like we've drank all these big beers, and then they have a great bourbon selection at Wrecking
Yes.
Bar too. A lot
Phenomenal.
of people may not realize that, but they had, I believe it was the Pappy 15 or 10.
It was the Van
Or
Winkle
both?
10,
Van
which
Winkle
is
10.
fantastic. Yeah,
And
it's,
their prices are amazing.
That's what I was going
Good
to say.
pricing,
The price there was better than anywhere else. It was
Yes.
good enough that they had like 3/4 of a half a bottle when we got to the bar, and by the time Brian and I and the other people we told about it, they
was gone.
they polished that
It was,
bottle off.
yeah, we killed it off. I know we had at least 2 ourselves, and then a couple of other people had one. The bottle was gone. It was
gone.
It was fantastic, though. It was very memorable. In the middle of this giant beer festival, we're drinking bourbon. It's amazing. It's good
It
times.
went well with the strong beers.
And then I followed that up with a walk around the corner to the porter where I had some slow pour pilsners. I think it was Kronbacher Pils. I didn't keep good track of it, and let's be honest, I wasn't 100% there by the time I got there. So if you know what I'm saying.
You walked down to the porter, so that shows at least a little bit of
exactly.
of
And I actually
dedication
don't
there.
recall a lot of that trip. I remember being there, sitting at the bar drinking, and I Ubered the entire way, just so everybody knows.
Just
I was
not
not
the
driving
porter.
around. So.
That's safe. I had one pilsner this entire week. That was my entire week. Because, Brian, I injured my leg somehow, and it was bugging me for a while. And this weekend, I just took the week off, took it easy at the house. I got cabin fever from it. I'm not used to staying in the house that much. So I took it easy on the alcohol because I was nursing an injured leg. And so I had no fun. One pilsner this whole week.
I had enough fun for both of us.
Well, I
let me tell
appreciate you
Yes.
going out there and doing that. Brij, how about you? How was your week?
It was pretty crazy. It's getting ready for the holiday season
Yeah.
with all the releases after Black Friday.
Keeping up with all the stuff. I saw, we do This Week in Georgia Beer newsletter that we send out, and we put all the beer releases on there, and it was just jam-packed.
There was just so much going on.
All the big barley wines and stouts and barrel-aged beers and everything. All those big beers that you want for the cold Christmas nights are coming up there.
Indeed. Well, Tim, I think we should talk about the beers of the week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Well, Brian, we've got a great selection this week. We have 12 beers, as you might get from the title of the show. I'm not going to run down the whole list right now. We will list them as we go, and, of course, in the show notes when we put this out there, we will make sure to mention them. But I'll tell you, round one of our 12 beers, we have Samuel Adams White Christmas, we have Abita Christmas Ale, and we have Shiner Holiday Cheer. So we're going to go through those. We're going to check them out. And at the end of this, we're all going to pick our top 3 favorites out of all these delicious Christmas beers. We have some hoppy beers. We have a lot of Belgian beers. We have spiced ales. Just a good variety of all kinds of different Christmas beers. And Brian, I think a little later on the show, you did a little analysis, I guess we'll call it, on the styles and ABVs of these beers.
Yeah.
And share a little information on what you found out there on the shelves with all of these great beers.
Sure. Absolutely.
Good. Well, Brian, what's happening this week in the news?
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
All right, so the fun news that's getting reported everywhere, and I do mean everywhere, is that a brewery was forced to change their beer label because it was depicting basically a reindeer Kama Sutra in the form of a Christmas sweater. So it sounds a lot more risque than it actually was. The can art was for Sycamore Brewing's Christmas Cookie Winter Ale, and it was designed, as I said, to look like an ugly Christmas sweater. So that means that the reindeer actually look a little bit more like old 8-bit video game characters in all kinds of interesting and compromising situations. Well, some anonymous person online was not having it and complained to the North Carolina Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, and that got them a visit and probably a fine for the unapproved and possibly, in quotes, obscene label. So they didn't even run it past the authorities. They were trying to sneak it through. So, but good news for can collectors out there. If you got a can, it's a lot more valuable because they had to change the label for the remaining stock. So
it was fairly, I guess it all depends on your point of view, but it seemed fairly harmless to me.
Yeah.
Little teeny cartoon stamped out reindeer just enjoying the season and doing their thing.
And it kind of, from a distance, doesn't really even look like the reindeer. It's meant to be something you notice as you look at it more closely.
Which I'm guessing is how it originally got approved, and then they got busted for it.
Well, it didn't get
right?
approved. They didn't submit it for approval at all.
Okay.
So
I thought it was out there, and someone complained about it. That's not the way that worked.
They saw it on Instagram and complained. That's what it was.
Okay, gotcha.
Social media.
That's it. Really quick, the Brewers Association has released their year-in beer for 2019. The quick summary is there is an estimated 4% growth year over year for small and independent U.S. craft breweries. The breweries are responsible for 550,000 full-time jobs, which is an 11% increase from 2017. They contributed $79.1 billion to the U.S. economy, and there were more than 8,000 breweries in operation in 2019, but there were also 300 breweries which closed by the end of 2019, or will have closed by then. So, yeah, they added 2 new holidays to the calendar, National Independent Beer Run Day on July 3rd and Small Brewery Sunday on December 1st. So right after Black Friday, basically.
Still growing, but changing times out there
Indeed.
in craft beer. Absolutely. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're going to take a break, but we will be back very soon to get into our 12 beers of Christmas.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. The final round of our voting on our Best of Georgia Beer opens on Monday. So if you know Georgia beer, go to beerguysradio.com and cast your votes. That's what's going on. So let's get back to our 12 beers of Christmas.
That sounded very intense, Brian.
Yeah,
Georgia beer and voting is an intense topic.
it is.
We have a lot of fun with this. You know, we're nationwide. We drink beers from everywhere, but we do got a lot of love for our locals. So it's something we've done from way back when we were just a local radio show, and we continue it. And the results, Brian, will come out the 28th on a special podcast-only episode.
It's tradition, just like this episode.
It's tradition.
Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely. So speaking of this episode, we have done our first 4. We've sampled through our first 4 Christmas beers. We had Samuel Adams White Christmas, Shiner Holiday Cheer. We have Abita Christmas Ale, and we just opened Anchor's, long name on this one, Brian.
Yes.
Anchor, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, our Special Ale 2019. Brian, I think you found out something kind of fun about the label on this one, right?
So there was an article that just came out on, I think it's SF Gate, about the guy who hand draws and has hand drawn every single label on this beer for 45 years except one of a specific tree that he picks. And he's been doing that forever. He's 92 years old.
Do you know why he missed that one? Is there any story there?
So Fritz Maytag decided it would be cool to have a rotating group of artists. And like he had somebody else do it and realized it was a terrible idea.
Lasted
and then went
1
back
year,
to
huh?
Went back to the guy for the rest. And the interesting thing is on one of the anniversaries of that beer's release, they actually had the author or the original artist go back and recreate that one himself. So he took that picture and drew his own version of it. So they had a...
Don't mess with tradition,
So
man.
he basically drew it anyway, even though he didn't. So it's kind of neat. But,
so these first 4 beers here, I think we've each picked our favorites out of these first 4. And we're trying our best to go from lighter to more intense or boozier in that. So the Samuel Adams one is a wit beer. The Shiner one, Brian, what is the Shiner, the style on that one? It's a Dunkelweizen,
it's a Dunkel,
right?
yeah.
The Shiner is
officially.
Dunkelweizen. The Abita beer is just a winter ale. And the Anchor one, they don't really put a style out on that one, do they? Just a
No,
holiday
not really.
ale?
And actually, the Abita in the description on Untappd says it's a brown ale, but it's in there as like a winter ale, I think is what it is. So
They get a little liberal when you go talking
loosey-goosey
about
with,
holiday
yeah,
ales there.
exactly.
So Brij, on these first 4 here, what are your thoughts on these 4 beers?
I think Anchor Christmas took the win on this round.
Anchor got that one for you.
Yeah.
Okay, why did Anchor stand out to you there?
Just amazing from start to finish. The nose, the mid palate, it was just pleasant.
Just a good beer. Brian, how about you? Which one took the spot for you?
Right until we were with this one, I was at Abita, and then I had the Anchor, and that took it for me. I think this has more balance. It has a lot of the similar things that I like about the Abita, but it's all balanced out. It's not as intense, so I was tempted to go the other way, but the Merry Christmas one, I think, is the Anchor Merry Christmas is my winner. That, and I do kind of like the fact that the same 92-year-old man has been drawing the labels for all
cool
these
story.
years.
On it,
So,
man.
yeah, I'm
So-
a little biased.
I will tell you that my order changed after having the Anchor, but I still got to give Sam Adams my top spot. That one just, and Zach's nodding over here, and he says, so Zach and I are in agreement on the Sam Adams. Other than that, we're pretty mixed on this first round. And the reason the Sam Adams for me, it's light. very big Christmas spice on the aroma, almost like a pastry, a dessert, Christmas spice, but it's light, had a creamy mouthfeel to it, and that one to me was just a very nice, drinkable Christmas beer.
Sure. And that was a wit beer, and that's one of the, for this time of year, that's the only wit beer I could see myself drinking. To me, it smelled like a ginger snap, kind of.
Yeah, it was tasty.
Yeah,
so
it's quite nice.
Brian, you actually looked up some statistics, kind of looked at our sampling of beers and tried to see some patterns we got there. You want to tell us a little bit about what you found looking at these beers?
So pretty much my criteria for picking these up was any beer that I found that had Christmas in the name or was generally accepted to be a beer for Christmas. I kind of went with that. All I did was count up to 12, and it was a challenge to make the 12. And what I found is there's an interesting distribution of styles, and this is based upon what Untapped says. Of our 12, there are 6 of them that are categorized merely as a winter ale, which can mean a lot of things. 2 as winter warmers, and then of course we've got the wit beer. We've got an imperial stout. We've got a wee heavy. We even have an IPA, and of course the Dunkels. So that was really interesting.
I'm guessing a lot of the ones that fall into that winter ale category are coming from our brothers in Belgium. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say a fair number of them, but it's a good distribution of throughout. Interestingly, about the ABVs, there's kind of a neat grouping of them. So under 7%, 5 of them fall, but the 7 to 10%, we've got 4. And then plus 10%, we've got another 4. So it's almost evenly split amongst those. They're kind of on the higher ABV range, but some of them dip down to just over 5.
So it sounds like you could take your Christmas beers and you could plan out your whole day of Christmas drinking.
Sure.
You could start with the lower ABV ones, the ones less than 7%, then go ahead and kick it up, man. Get up in there over those 10%.
Absolutely could.
Finish the day off. Well, you also look, Brian, I know you were looking kind of the details on what is a winter warmer? What is a winter ale? What is the difference in all of these beer names?
So that is an interesting and kind of somewhat infuriating thing to look up because people are very opinionated about winter warmers. I know one person I read in an article was quoted as saying that, hey, it's got to have big malts, it's got to have big chocolate, no spice, and anything else is, some other winter ale. It's not right. But after doing a bunch of reading and I believe looking into some like Oxford Dictionary listings for these, a winter warmer has a big malt presence, is brownish to black, sometimes spiced, frequently not. And the spicing for winter warmers is actually usually more of a recent thing. They may have a hop aroma but low hop bitterness, and they frequently have a good deal of alcohol warmth. So numerous sources stress that this one is about, richness, sweet malt, booziness, and some spices. And then you have winter ale, which seems to be more of a catch-all category as it's used, in discussions of beers. It's kind of frequently non-traditional beers with higher alcohol heat fall into this category, often used interchangeably with winter warmer. And some insist there's just no difference at all. So some do, some
just
don't.
Semantics, right?
Yeah, kind of weird. And then there's a whole Christmas holiday ale thing. And this is, again, another thing without really rigid parameters. I think at a certain point, a lot of this is about marketing. They're used interchangeably with winter warmer. And again, people sometimes insist that there's a difference between the two. These may not have as big a malt or high an alcohol warmth as your winter warmer, and they may be spiced more along the way of the wassail, the traditional heated beers with spices in them. So maybe a little lighter on the malts and the richness.
Brij, what do you see on the retail side around this time of year? What are people going for the Christmassy beers, these spicy beers?
We're seeing that people are mostly going after like the darker beers. We're noticing a bigger trend on the stouts. On the Christmas beers, usually we notice right before Christmas, the little window right between like December 20th, 21st through Christmas Day. People will go crazy on Christmas beers, and by that time, it's like pretty much gone.
They come in there and they wait too long. Typical holiday shoppers, man.
Sure.
Wait till the last minute
every
and
year.
Come in there and get it. See? Another tradition, last minute shopping.
I need to know, is the window for pumpkin beers, wider or narrower than the window for Christmas beers? Because it always seemed to me like...
The window to throw them out of?
Yeah, the window to throw them out of.
Okay.
No, it seemed like the pumpkin beers landed in July and were there right up until Christmas, but Christmas beers were only there for like an acceptable month and a half. Is that about right, or is it
seems
different
like
now?
pumpkin was about a month and a half this time. And Christmas was less than 2 weeks ordering time. And within 2 weeks, we couldn't even get any more.
Wow.
It's crazy, man. The change in beer market out there, just seeing how the windows are tightening up. There's more availability, which is great for a consumer. I'm sure it drives a retailer mad. You got to keep finding new shelf space, right?
Yep, pretty much.
Keep the hot stuff in there.
I thought it was interesting. I was looking to match up all the beers to make sure we had enough for all of us to drink. Some of them were already sold out. It was hard to find enough beers for us, buying the individual bottles. So a bit surprised by that. I know it is December.
And you're even early on your Christmas beer shopping.
That's right. So, yes, indeed.
You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take a quick break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more of the 12 Beers of Christmas.
Is your brewery or restaurant flooring all jacked up? Your foundation needs to be protected from heat, chemicals, and other contaminants. At the same time, you want to make sure it's slip resistant and you can clean up your messes with soap and water. You know who to call?
ResTech.
We've been manufacturing poured-in-place flooring since 2002, and we've got solutions to fit any facility's needs. Go on and visit our website at
ResTech.net.
That's RES-TEK.net. Drop us a line and we will come to you for a free evaluation.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to our newest radio affiliate, WZUS 100.9 FM in Decatur, Illinois. Catch Beer Guys Radio on Talk 101 FM every Saturday at 8 a.m. local time. Now let's get back to the 12 Beers of Christmas.
12 Beers of Christmas, Brian. We have went through 8 of them.
We have
went through 8 of them, and we're having to pace ourselves, Brian.
Yes.
Because we are mature and responsible beer drinkers. We don't want to get too crazy here. Brij, how are you holding up over there?
Just as good as Corona Lady.
Corona, good stuff.
That's right.
So, yeah, we're doing all right here. So the next 4 beers in our 12 Beers of Christmas, we have Sierra Nevada Celebration Fresh Hop IPA. We got into 21st Amendment's Fireside Chat, which is a winter ale. We got into one that there's absolutely no way I'm going to say this correctly, Brian. It is a Belgian beer, Cursed Mutsky, Brian.
I'm guessing,
you good with that?
I'm okay with that.
That's their Christmas Nightcap Winter Ale, and also Bell's Christmas Ale that we got into.
Classic.
The classic Bell's Christmas Ale.
And as we go on, the ABVs are creeping up. This is that mid-range.
Yes.
This is 7 to 9. Way. Yeah.
Which is why it's very important that we pace ourselves out, because the last 4 beers that we get into are going to be some of the biggest and booziest ones. Belgians and Imperial Stouts, right?
Indeed. And segment 4 is going to be super segment 4-y.
Super segment 4-y.
Yes. Looking forward to that.
Brian, Christmas beers. There was a time, and I believe you got a little more information for us on that I believe it was in 12th century Norway. You were actually required by law, written law, to brew Christmas beer. Is that right?
Yeah, that is true. I'd never heard of this until recently on that larsblog, where he documents the Norwegian farmhouse ales famously, but everything else about Norwegian beer culture. In 12th century Norway, it was illegal not to brew a beer for Christmas. It wasn't a kidding around situation. They were serious about it. According to the Gulathing law, if you didn't brew a beer for Christmas, you had to pay 3 marks to the bishop, which apparently was a big fine. If you didn't brew a beer for 3 years and you didn't pay the fees, your properties would be seized and split between the church and the crown. And only if you confessed your sins and made penance would you be allowed to continue living in Norway. So they were serious about this.
Otherwise, you're exiled from the king's realm, right?
That's exactly right.
You're out of here, man.
Yeah.
Brew your Christmas beer, or get out of here. That seems like an easy one not to get busted on, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people were already brewing beer, so you would think it would be a no big deal. Here's the thing, like with all weird beer laws, there's a good chance religion was involved. This was driven by religion. So it wasn't so much that you had to brew the beer, you had to brew the beer on Christmas and toast Christ and the Virgin Mary or the Mother Mary specifically. So that was what it was, because Christmas basically took over Jule, which was a holiday that they had, in the pagan
celebrating
rituals.
Vaping.
Yeah, celebrating vaping,
right.
Yes. All those
Jule.
tobacco things. Yeah, it was fantastic. Everybody was getting off cigarettes back there in 12th century Norway.
With their e-cigs.
Great health, It was great when they were raiding towns. But, so they needed you to brew this beer specifically to toast, Christ and Mother Mary, and that was what it was. So it was part of Christianity taking over Norway.
Because this was a big time when they were moving from basically pagan, a lot of paganism, into Christianity, and a lot of crossover there. And actually, that's Christmas got aligned with pagan celebrations there.
Exactly.
So you're brewing your Christmas beer, probably newly called Christmas.
Exactly.
At that time, and had to bless it to the Christian.
And if you didn't, they weren't having it.
Yeah.
You had to. A lot of the penalties initially were to the church. The only time the crown got the kickback is if they were seizing your assets and kicking you out of the country. So
I like how the final penalty is give me all your stuff and leave.
Yeah, that's right.
Get out of here.
When it comes down to us, like, all right, I'll brew the beer. That's fine.
Yeah, easy enough, man. Let's brew this beer. Of the beers we've had here, Brian, none of them Norwegian so far.
Not a single one of them.
Not a single one, but we've had some good ones. What are your thoughts on round 2, the next 4 beers that we've had?
The beer that we can't pronounce that I have never even heard of before, the Kurtzmutsky, the Christmas nightcap from Belgium. That's my winner right now. That's a beautiful beer.
Now, is that one that you found before you went to the store? Or did you just see it on the shelf and say, let's go for it?
I saw it at the shelf. I'd never heard of it, and I'm like, Christmas nightcap? Oh, this is a wild card. This could be anything. And I was expecting very little, honestly. And it's delivered some really good flavor. Oh, this is fantastic.
Brij, were you familiar with this one before tonight?
Never heard of it.
Not on the shelves at Sprayberry Bottle Shop in Marietta, Georgia?
But you guys need to buy it all.
Get it off there. Absolutely.
It's got hype.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, build the hype, man. Build the hype. What was your number 1, Brij?
The same one.
Yeah. Zach, which was your top one there? Okay. Zach gives it to the Bells. He gives it to the Bells Christmas Ale. And then so that's, he said the Kurtzmutsky got number 2. Kurtzmutsky got my number 1. That was a surprise, Brian. I didn't expect it from an unknown Belgian beer, coming out there, but I always enjoy Belgian Christmas beer. So, bring it on. It had big, almost a fruit cakey, spicy.
Oh, yeah.
Nice malts, the good Belgian character, just excellent holiday character. Pretty carbonated, kind of almost effervescent.
I wrote effervescent in my little notes here. Yeah, so it's fantastic.
Delicious, but that was a surprise, man. I love that one a lot.
What's your current number? Well, maybe I shouldn't ask you what your current number 2 is overall.
My number 2 overall.
But maybe of the four we had.
You know what? I'm going to wait till we get all 12 before I go that deep. I'm taking it one step at a time here, bro.
But of the 4 that we've just had.
Of the 4 that we've just had, Firestone Chat.
Firestone Chat.
Number 2.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I like that one. I got a little essence of fireplace in there, maybe a touch of smokiness. Again, cakey. I think a lot of these with the malts and the spices.
Sure.
Christmas cake comes to mind. I really enjoyed that one a lot. I'm going to go ahead and throw there. Bell's got me number 3. Almost tasted like the hops in there were stale to me. It had what I'm going to call a little vintage taste that I didn't dig. And Celebration gets number 4 out of this next round. And I'll tell you, there's only one reason why it gets number 4, and that is simply because it didn't say Christmas to me.
100% poured in a glass.
Right? Yeah, delicious beer. Delicious 100%. Beer. And I'm not typically a real big hop head like this, but there wasn't a ton of bitterness, not overly bitter.
Great beer, but not for the season.
Right. And that's it for me too, Brij, is the beer is delicious. It just didn't do it for me for Christmas.
That's a great cold weather IPA for people who like that, or like your red ale replacement type of thing, because you don't see a lot of that, not that many red ales anymore, and it kind of had that little bit of that vibe to me. I like it. I could drink that all throughout the cold weather.
I got the celebration ale at Decatur Beer Fest, and it was a cold and rainy day this year at Decatur Beer Fest, and it was delightful.
That's
it
perfect.
Was really good. So, But if we're going Christmas, bring me some of those spices. Bring me a little more character to it, I think. is what's doing it for me.
So with the Bell's Christmas Ale, my one thought is of all of these, a lot of them have had a bigger spice presence. That was more rich, and I think they were going for a hearkening back to like the heated wassails of yore with the booze
Of
heat.
yore?
Of yore.
Yes,
that's
the
the
heated
technical
wassails of yore.
The technical term for it
Fair
is
enough.
of yore. And
the
so
Yule of yore.
when they stopped heating up beers at Christmas time due to hops not tasting good when they're heated, they tried to replace that with alcohol warmth, and I think that's what they did there. And I appreciate what Bell's did with that. I kind of like that.
All right.
I did not notice the vintage hops, but I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, by that.
Will you be making some Glue Creek again this year, Brian?
Yes. I'm going to say yes. I haven't put down firm plans to do it, but yes, I have the right bottle for that.
Is that a winter wine?
No, so Glue Creek is, you know what glue wine is?
Yeah, I've heard of it,
okay,
yeah.
So Glue Creek is basically the same thing, but with a creek.
Oh, wow.
You use a creek beer, so it's a hot spiced creek.
Got that idea from Cascade, and I've been using their creek every year as long as I have bottles to make the Glue Creek. You warm it up, you add some honey to it, add some fruit to it, add some mulling spices, and I got to tell you, really good.
Tasty
Very
stuff.
impressive, yeah.
Drop you an orange slice on there. Did you know that Leifman's makes a bottled Glue Creek that you're supposed
really?
to serve warm?
Did not know that.
Yeah, so they're ready for you, Brian. You can go wassailing with your Glue Creek, get you some glue wine, every glue-based beverage.
All the glue. I'll start sniffing glue. I mean, it'll be
Sniffing glue.
fantastic.
That sounds like
it'll
quite
be
a party.
Amazing.
You're going to have a heck of a Christmas,
It's
Brian.
going to be great.
After the Kurtzmuski.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, all these words, all these tough words to say.
That's exactly right.
You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more of the 12 Beers of Christmas. Brian and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Oh, God, here we go again. Dork alert.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guy swag, commercial-free episodes, and even episodes that aren't available anywhere else, like episodes involving Dino S'mores.
They do. Brian, this week, Dino S'mores from this beer right here.
Yes.
One of our old classic favorites, Brian.
Indeed.
That we don't see on shelves here in Georgia. I picked that up at Sprayberry Bottle Shop.
Did
in
you?
Marietta, Georgia.
Oh,
Very
I get
good beer.
Now
So,
I understand why Brij is here. He
that's
hooked
right.
you up,
He
and
didn't.
now we owe
He
him a
didn't.
favor.
You know, I saw something recently where the FTC is cracking down on media people about disclosure of what you get for free and what you pay for. Brian, I will say this. I will make this statement. Every beer we're drinking tonight, we paid for.
Oh, we did.
None of
yes.
these were complimentary.
This,
So-
I know.
But yeah, check it out. Go to patreon.com. For $5 a month, you can get the mini episodes. You can support us for as little as $1 a month, and we'd greatly appreciate anything that you can do. $1 a month will get you commercial-free episodes of the podcast. $5 gets you mini episodes every week, Brian. So
You got to go
it's
for
worth
the five.
investment.
Seriously.
Go 5.
The episodes.
I got
the little
5 on
minis.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, they're fantastic. Let's get back to the 12 Beers of Christmas.
So the 12 Beers of Christmas, Brian, it's interesting that you say the 12 Beers of Christmas. So we've done 2 rounds of 4, which would indicate,
Plus one.
Brij, wouldn't that mean we had 4 more beers
5 more.
to drink?
That totally means
four.
4 more. Yeah, 4,
Well,
right?
Brian, there's 5 beers here.
What? No, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go.
Five,
Yeah,
so-
I got it.
Well, it turns out that Brian cannot count, but that's fine because we got another good beer in the mix here. So we had 5 more beers that went into this. So in this round, we have Corsendonk Christmas Ale, we have the St. Bernardus Christmas Ale, we have Delirium Noel, we have Nice Schoof, and taken up the tail end here, we have Prairie's Christmas Bomb. So 4 Belgians, and then a big stout. in this last round.
And I want to say that the last one is 13%, so
lucky 13.
Totally makes sense for it to be the 13th beer.
Yes.
It
so
totally
we got
does.
13 here. We have tasted and tabulated, but before we get into that, I'm kind of curious, when you guys think Christmas beer, what is it? What comes? Brij, Christmas beer. What says Christmas to you? What do you personally look for in a Christmas beer?
I want spice. I want booziness. I want something that reminds me of a fireplace.
Okay.
Something warm.
Something holiday-y,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Because, there are a few that are more, they bring the tree to the party, more the hoppy side of that. For me personally, that doesn't scream Christmas ale. Not what I'm looking for in a Christmas ale there, personally. Brian, how about you, man? What says Christmas beer to you?
So we've had a few that had that whole, I'm going to bring the pine or spruce evergreen tree to your mouth.
Right.
And I like that. I do like that, but I think that having consumed all of these beers, what I'm really looking for is the soft, warm heat and the spices and the effervescence. And I got to tell you, it's mostly coming from the Belgian beers.
The Belgians got a strong Christmas beer game.
They
and I
really
can't argue
do.
with that. Absolutely.
They win it.
If there was a World Cup for Christmas beers, I'm thinking they would win it most years.
Does ABV play into what you look for in a Christmas beer?
It's not so much ABV, I think, as the perception of heat, but ABV does help. So,
you do want you want to feel some warmth there. Maybe
I do.
A little alcohol warmth, right?
And I think it's calling back to the times where people actually heated up their beers during the winter to warm people up with the spices, the mulling, the glühweins, that sort of thing. So yes, I think the extra heat from the alcohol is kind of key to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Brian, you actually looked up our info on last year's Christmas beers, correct? Kind of took a look at what that, because I don't think that we have many repeats this year. We came in, and I think we've only got a couple that are repeated. We had a couple last year that we didn't get in the mix this year, but I believe it was from Barrel of Monks.
Yes.
Father Christmas, was it?
I think our winner last year was Barrel of Monks Father Christmas, but we also had some other ones that we have here. We've got the Corsendon Christmas Ale, Delirium Noel. We've got the St. Bernardus Christmas Ale. So we've got a number of ones that have returned this year that you're always going to see. Some of them, they rotate in and out, and I guess it's subject to availability. But, we've got some.
But yeah, right?
But yeah.
So when we look at these, we talked about the Belgians and how strong they're coming. Do you think that kind of exemplifies a Christmas beer? The Belgian character, the spice that we're seeing. Because I will say this, just throw this out as my personal opinion. There were some differences, but I felt the Corsendonk, the St. Bernardus, the Delirium, and the Nice Schoof all were very similar beers in their character.
I think they deliver a profile that people are expecting with slight modifications on it. So it's like everybody has their recipe of the thing that they make for a holiday. If it's a fruitcake, which I guess people don't really make those, but I think that all of these, if you think of them as kind of a fruitcake, they all have a slightly different recipe, and what they present is very distinct if you think about it. So when I was tasting these, I get that they're all very similar, but they all have interesting nuance to them, like where they focus on certain elements a little bit more than others. And yeah, it's very intriguing. It's hard to pick between them. They have similarities, but the differences are very, very personal.
One might be a little softer, one might be a little drier, one may be a little more crisp
Spicier.
and pronounced, and that little more spice on that. Because there was one that I got a big black pepper hit on, especially on the aroma and the flavor. Really banged out some pepper notes there, and that was one thing that did set it apart.
And the one that had the really interesting time note to it, I picked out immediately, and I thought about it. I'm like, wow, that's different. That's impressive.
Little things setting it apart.
Yeah,
there, right?
They're little things. You've got the same category, a very limited category that these guys are working from, and like these little tiny nuances that make a big difference in the end result. If you think about them in terms of what they are, if you go all out and consider everything we've had, it gets a little harder to make. Gets a little broader range. Yeah.
All right. So with that said, let's talk about our last round here a little bit, and then we're going to give our overall top. So, Brij, out of this last round of 4/5 beers for our 13 beers of Christmas. What was your favorite in this round?
I think Delirium Noel.
Delirium Noel took
Won
it
it
for
for
you in
me,
this one.
yep.
Okay. What was it about Delirium Noel
was
that
just
set it apart?
Perfectly well balanced.
Okay. Good
It
deal.
had everything in it, like the perfect balance of spice, the perfect level of booziness, and it was just really well done.
Okay. Brian, how about you, man? What was your number one in this round?
I mean, the more I thought about this round, the more I was into Ashuf's Nice Shoof.
Okay.
The orange peel and the thyme together, beautiful. Just
really
beautiful.
nice
Oh,
there.
beautiful. Yeah.
I will say this. I think throwing Prairie in with all these big Belgian
That's a
beers
twist.
didn't necessarily give it the fairest fight it could have had in this battle.
I will tell you that it being in context with all these other beers actually hurt it a lot for me.
I would agree.
I love
Yeah.
that there's like a chocolatey, tobacco-y note to it. It doesn't do it for me right
No,
here. With
it doesn't
these,
fit in. No.
it didn't fit in. It didn't fit in.
That was the
So
Belgians.
it suffered as a result of that. So
I would agree. Putting it up against those others, and again, that is a beer that I've enjoyed. This Prairie Christmas is a beer. All the bomb variants I've enjoyed quite a lot, but having it up against those, it just didn't come out there for me.
I need that heat. I need that warm, that soft,
Spiciness.
like, glowing
Yep.
fruit, the spices.
Right.
I mean, I think that's what that needs, and it's a different thing. That is what goes into Santa's pipe once he's done making all of his Christmas deliveries. But while he's making the deliveries, he's drinking the Belgians.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
exactly what that is.
With that said, guys, let's do our top 3 overall from our 12 beers of Christmas. Brian, what are your top 3 of the day?
I may have spoiled it, but Ashuf Nice Shoof is my number 1. Corsandant Christmas Ale, which I enjoyed immensely, is my number 2. And St. Bernardus's Christmas Ale is my number 3.
All right. Brij, Sprayberry Bottle Shop, what is your top 3?
So Delirium Noel takes 1.
Okay.
The Curse to Musker takes 2.
Yeah.
Which you guys need to go out and buy every bit of it.
Absolutely.
I agree.
It
That's a great
needs-
beer. Yeah.
Like,
Sure enough.
that could be number 1, but
Make it happen. It's a contender,
definitely.
huh? All
Yes,
right.
a shocker. And Anchor Christmas.
Anchor Christmas for your number 3.
Yes.
All right. You know, we've got some similarities, but we've got some variety on our list here. I put the Kurt Muska as my number 1.
Wow,
That was a
okay.
fantastic beer. Nice Shoof took my number 2 spot, Brian. It was as I said, similar character to all of these, but that one stood out. And that Sam Adams wit beer from way back in
I knew.
the beginning. I just
You
really
knew it.
enjoyed that.
I
said
knew
it
you
from the
couldn't let
table.
that one go.
Yeah.
I knew.
So
knew.
that was
Yeah.
really good, man. Well, that is it. That is our 12 beers of Christmas. We thank you guys for joining us. We hope you have a great holiday. Coming up next week, Brian, we're going to the Midwest. We're going to talk to Single Speed Brewing Company.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week, a fantastic Christmas, and don't forget to drink local.
Happy
Cheers.
Christmas. Cheers.